Good afternoon. Thank you for joining today's webinar titled Vendor Engagement, Help Your Radiology Clients Make the Most of Registry Reporting. My name is Alicia Blakey. I will be presenting a PowerPoint presentation to you today. Everyone is joining the call in listen-only mode. We have close to over 60 participants signed up for this webinar, so we plan to have an interactive session following today's following the presentation at the end of our slideshow. I just want everyone to be aware that the PowerPoint presentation as well as the webinar recording will be available following today's broadcast. So the essence or purpose of today's webinar is so that we can help our vendors assist their clients. Primarily, ACR continues to assist our members with meeting various quality reporting requirements for CMS, that's Center for Medicare and Medicaid Programs, the PQRS program, value modifier, and starting in 2017, the MIPS program. We ask you all to join us call today because we see you as playing a pivotal role in helping our radiologists lessen their reporting burden and submit necessary data to the ACR successfully, but most importantly, to help them improve quality. On today's call, we plan to cover an overview of NRDR and the QCDR interface. NRDR is our National Radiology Data Registries, and the purpose of today's call is to help your clients use our registries so that they can do PQRS reporting to CMS, and that's through the means of a QCDR. The second bullet is 2016 PQRS QCDR reporting requirements is very important. There are multiple ways that your clients, your radiologists, can actually participate in the PQRS program. Traditionally, they have submitted their measure information using claims, and registry reporting is also a second option. There are more than one option if you want to do a registry. Today's focus is going to be on using the ACR's products. We're going to look at available measures and data submission mechanisms, benefits of using a QCDR, and our feedback report schedule. It's very important that vendors like yourself, both billers and large systems, have a way of submitting or exporting data to the ACR in a streamlined way. So we're going to walk through that, and the reason why you're going to submit that data in a timely manner is because your radiologists are going to make use of feedback reports and actually look at their exam counts and their clinical measures specific to a given modality. Lastly, we're going to touch on engagement strategies. How can you be involved? Key timelines and upcoming educational sessions. So before we start, I think it's important to set groundwork on the terminology that we use. So the QCDR is a Qualified Clinical Data Registry. This annually, CMS has an application process for registry vendors like the ACR to submit an application and actually be approved or deemed able to collect quality data on behalf of our radiologists and submit it to CMS on their behalf. We have been a QCDR since 2014, so we're coming in on our third year of participating as a QCDR. And so just wanted to give, if anyone has any more information or would like additional information, we have an extensive website where you can get more information at acr.org/QCDR. So part of using the ACR's registries, we have an umbrella of registries called the National Radiology Data Registries, or NRDR, that supports our Qualified Clinical Data Registry. Under that registry umbrella, we have up to 5 different registry options you could use or your clients could use to submit quality data to CMS for PQRS reporting. PQRS is the Physician Quality Reporting System. From this slide, you can see that PQRS is a central component of the registries. By any means, like I said, we've only been a QCDR since 2014, but our registries have been in existence since around 2008, 2009, so participation in our registries does not mean that they're automatically going to be participating in PQRS. So it's kind of an add-on to our NRDR registries. Part of setting the groundwork, I just wanted to make everyone on the call aware of today that, you know, we do, since 2014, we do have good numbers as far as participation. CMS analyzes all of our providers' information using their tax ID numbers and their National Provider Identifier numbers, so your TIN and NPIs. As I said, the whole purpose of a QCDR is so that you submit data to the ACR, and we then in turn submit that data after it's validated and checked for errors and everything. We send it to CMS on behalf of the provider. Here you'll see participation rates for 2014 and 2015. You can see that we submitted data for over 343 physicians in 2014, and that number continued to increase. There's actually a 29% increase to 442 physicians or providers that we submitted. The tax ID number, just for verification, is that's the number that's provided by CMS to the facility or the physician group, and that's how they bill their Medicare Part B services. So TIN is synopsis with facilities in this case. So we participated with over 22 facilities in 2014, and 2015, 37. And with 2016 being the first year where our QCDR can support groups more succinctly for CMS participation, we're hoping that that number will actually increase for 2016. At the bottom, you'll note that there are a few asterisks. PQRS reporting requirements continue to change annually. So every year around December, there's changes in the measures. There's changes in how many measures need to be reported. So back in 2014, the reporting requirements were only 3 measures to avoid a penalty or a negative payment adjustment. And in 2015, you could see it increased from 3 measures to 9 measures. So it's very important that we help our radiologists be successful in meeting these PQRS reporting requirements, especially with the increase in reporting standards. And then just one other point to note on this slide is that in order to avoid the penalty, 350 of our 442 applicants were successful, meaning they avoided a negative payment adjustment. So we have different stop gates and processes to help the radiologists be successful, and they know specifically how they're going to play out from CMS's approval prior to us even submitting the data. So our goal is to submit complete and accurate data for all of the radiologists, for all of their practices that they read for, as well as for all of their patients' data. We'll continue to move right along. Just want to give you just a quick sense of how many people are participating in all of our registries. Like I said, we have 5 registries that can be used for PQRS reporting. You can see from this table that the Dose Index Registry, DIR, and the Lung Cancer Screening Registry are some of our high utilizers. We have over 1,800 physicians signed up for DIR, and for lung cancer screening is 1,698, and these numbers continue to grow because this is based on March of 2016. The reason for the jump in the lung cancer screening registry of how many people are active and how many total registrants we have is because 2015 was the first year where you could, CMS deemed that they would cover lung cancer screening services, and most importantly, if you're signed up for that registry, you have particular measures that you can use for PQRS reporting. We'll cover that later on in the presentation. So let's go ahead and just look at some of the reporting requirements for PQRS. If your clients are using a QCDR, which most of you are, we've sent you a very targeted invite for this meeting. Like I mentioned in the past, your providers may well be submitting claims and they may not be on registry, so just keep that in mind. But for individual providers, here are the reporting requirements. If they report 9 measures covering 3 NQS domains for at least 50% of the provider's patients seen during a 2016 participation year, then they could avoid a negative payment adjustment. Just want to make a note that when I say providers, patients, for using a QCDR as our registry, we have the capability to collect data on both Medicare and non-Medicare patients. That is part of the regulation or requirement of every QCDR, so we do collect both Medicare and non-Medicare patients. This second bullet is another requirement that people should be aware of, is that in addition to the 9 measures and 3 domains, you also need to report on 2 outcome measures. And then if 2 outcome measures are not available, then they can report on a subset of measures listed or categorized differently, such as resource use, patient experience of care, efficiency, appropriate use, or patient safety. So please keep that in mind. With using our QCDR registry, your clients are having access to all of our 5 different databases, and each database has measures that can be used. And I can let you know right now that all of the measures that are developed and used by our registries are outcome-based and are specific to your services that your client provides. So the outcome measure does not seem to be a problem. And that's new for 2016. Group practices can use the QCDR to meet PQRS reporting requirements. This was not the case 2015 and beyond. We only did individual provider reporting. That means for every MPI that you have, you would submit files or data to us individually, and then we would submit it to CMS. Now we're going to have capability so that you can submit data in an aggregated process for all the doctors that read for your facilities or hospitals. I think it's important to spend a little bit of time on kind of group reporting, because with PQRS there are a lot of nuances, and if you are an individual provider, you have a certain set of requirements that you need to do, but as a group you also actually have different reporting requirements that you can meet, and it's actually simplified a little bit. So just in general, if you want to, if you would need to find out if they're doing individual GPRO reporting, because that affects how many you need data for. So if you're in a physician group practice, you can meet these requirements across your entire group if they have at least 9 measures, 3 domains, and 2 outcomes, which we already covered for individual reporting. But most importantly here is that it's for at least 50% of the group's applicable patients. Remember, applicable patients is a fancy way of saying that we collect data for both Medicare and non-Medicare patients, even though CMS and PQRS has been traditionally a Medicare services only. They ask that we collect that information. So essentially, it's a self-nomination process. Your client would have needed to fill out an application with CMS to report as a group. Like I said, it's simplified. Instead of each individual doctor needing 9 measures and 3 domains, if the actual group reports that in total across all the physicians, they could get credit. And like I said, 2016 is the first year that we will have a way for your clients to submit data, and it can be aggregated at the physician group's tax ID number or that level. And as a reminder, all of our web resources are available at QCDR at our ACR site. So now that we've covered kind of the groundwork for PQRS, PQRS is not the only quality program. Beginning in 2017, there are going to be a lot of changes to the terminology as well as the measures and kind of what's required. So this is titled PQRS Reporting and Beyond, is because the Medicare Accessibility and CHIP Reauthorization Act, or MACRA, was signed into law in April 2015. It introduces several upcoming changes to the current physician reimbursement framework. A few points about what MACRA is. It repeals the sustainable growth rate, or the SGR formula, and replaces with a payment method that incentivizes the value and quality of care over volume. So the transition to volume is a lingo that all of us are aware of on this call. It also streamlines 3 existing quality programs, the PQRS, the Volume Modifier, and the Medicare EHR Incentive Program, and adds a 4th component called Clinical Practice Improvement Activities. And they rolled all 4 of these components into a single program called the Quality Payment Program. Clinicians can participate in the Quality Payment Program through 2 different means. They can participate in MIPS or APMs, that's Merit-Based Incentive Payment Systems, or as an alternative payment model. And essentially why your client needs to participate in this is because they're going to avoid downward payment adjustments and potentially receive some incentives or positive payment adjustments that wasn't traditionally available for PQRS starting in about 2014. The incentives went away. So just want everyone to be aware that quality improvement and programs are changing, and ACR is going to be at the top of this wave and going to play a pivotal role in not only educating our providers but vendors like yourself. Just a little bit more on the MIPS performance category. So like I said, it takes 3 of our existing quality programs and rolls it up into these 4 categories. The categories are quality, cost, clinical practice improvement activities, that's a new area, and then advancing care information. That's going to be similar to meaningful use and kind of anything dealing with interoperability and making measures accessible electronically through the EHR. The breakdown for this graph is showing that of how the doctor's reimbursement will be affected. So 50% of the doctor's reimbursement will be tied to quality. And in exchange, 15% of the activities under clinical practice improvement activities will account for 15%. So it's very significant and significant changes that are going to be coming down the pipeline. Just want everyone to be aware on today's call that a QCDR can be used to meet 3 out of the 4 performance categories. So just please be aware of that, registry reporting plays an important role in quality improvement and it's going to influence future programs. Just a quick timeline. So we're going from PQRS to MIPS. 2015 and 2016, it's, the reporting has been based on P3 programs. It started in 2017. That's going to be the first performance year for MIPS. So January 1, 2017 is when this new program will exist in PQRS. The language of PQRS will no longer exist, but the measures that we currently have under that program will continue. And then 2019 will be the first year where the MIPS payment adjustments will take into effect. So everyone on this call is aware, but there's a 2-year lag time between when you actually report measure information and when CMS kind of analyzes it and determines if you were successful or not, and then they'll assign a payment adjustment, either positive or negative. Going forward in 2017, both individual and group reporting will continue under MIPS. So I've said a lot in a very short time, but I just wanted to summarize for everyone on the call that essentially in order to simplify PQRS participation in 2016, you can use a QCDR. All of you on the call today, it's important that you can help your client report 9 measures from 65 available, and we'll look at them a little bit closer later in the presentation, across 3 NQS domains. So essentially you're helping them meet the PQRS reporting requirements, and whether they're a group practice or an individual provider, if they use the QCDR, you can help them be successful and most importantly track their quality improvement. And then don't forget about the reporting threshold. It has to be 50% of all patients. So just keep that in mind. That includes both Medicare and non-Medicare patients, and there is an outcome measure requirement. So now that we've kind of covered the basis of what we're trying to achieve with participating in the quality improvement program, let's look more closely at the high-level process of a QCDR. So essentially your clients, they've reached out to ACR. They want to be a part of our NRDR registries. And the first step that they do is they look at all of our available measures that we have, and they select their appropriate registries for reporting. By any means, none of your clients or none of your sites have to participate in all 5 of the registries to be successful, just enough so that they can meet the measure requirements of 9 measures, 3 domains. Like I said on a previous slide, we have over 65 measures that can be used with the QCDR. So we have created a measure selection tool to help our clients determine which measures are best for their practice. Given the highly specialized our radiologists are, depending on which modality they work in, they'll have a different subset of measures. They add their physicians, right? This is the physician quality reporting program, so we do need information on their physicians. And they give us the most important thing is their physician group tax ID number. This is the ID that they bill Medicare Part B services for, so we definitely have a process to collect that information. And then step 4, where all of you come into play, is helping them to start submitting measure data to the NRDR or the QCDR. Those terms can be used synopsis for today's presentation. So let's just take a look. So with using our QCDR, as I mentioned already, that we have a number of supported measures. We have all of our registry participants are allowed to report a combination of PQRS and non-PQRS measures. And the non-PQRS measures are registry-based measures, and PQRS measures supported is essentially claims-based measures that have already been in PQRS programs since its inception in 2007. And the non-PQRS measures are really registry-specific. They're based on participation in our NRDR registry. So it's very important to know the difference between PQRS and non-PQRS measures. Here we have, of course, with that amount of measures, we have documentation to support kind of what the measures are that we support. We give you information about their domain area, since that's a core component of the reporting requirements, as well as what types of measures are they. So for the PQRS supported measures or the claims-based measures, we have a total of 41 of them. And like I said, PQRS changes annually, so we make sure that we actually hyperlink the reporting instructions for each measure so that a radiologist or a practice or administrator or a biller knows exactly what the changes are in the measure description, as well as the CPT codes. For claims-based measures, everything is very much driven by CPT coding and billing, so we make that available. Let's look at for the non-PQRS supported measures or our registry-based measures. If they're signed up for various NRDR databases, there are a number of measures that are available to them. As I mentioned, we have documentation that tells you what the measure title is. Because these measures are not CPT driven, we give you more information on what the intent of the measure actually is. We tell you how they've been categorized by CMS, so the domain area, which category do they fall under. And most importantly for this, we give you kind of the registry. If you're interested in a particular measure, we give you what registry or database you need to sign up for. So essentially, it's a 2-part process. You look at the available measures, and then that helps you determine which registry you want to participate in. This is just a quick graph to show you that we have over 65 measures that are available. Our biggest category of our PQRS measures are 41. That's the light blue area. And then our non-PQRS measures, we have 24 different measures that they could select from. As I mentioned, that's a lot of measures, so we do have a measure selection tool that helps them actually calculate the measure based on their modality or based on which registries they're signed up for or even interested in. Just one quick focus on this is that the National Quality Strategy domains is a key component of the PQRS reporting requirement. There are actually 6 different categories that a measure can fall under. The numbers indicated on this slide lets you know how many of our measures fall into that particular category. So for PQRS reporting, it's very important that you don't have all patient safety measures or that you don't have all measures that fall under communication and care coordination, but you need at least 3 unique categories. This slide right here gives you a breakdown. I covered a lot. We have over 5 registries. Gives you a breakdown of which measures are available for each registry. CTC colonography 2, I'm not going to read the whole slide to you. Just very important, if any of your clients are signed up for the National Mammography Database, in order to be successful for 2016 PQRS reporting, they have to give us data for 2015, because how the measures are written is that there has to be a 12-month follow-up to determine if cancer was detected, or to determine if their diagnosis was correct, or if something went from benign to actual cancer. And the same is true for the lung cancer screening registry, so just keep those data requirements in mind. So most of the question should be on everybody's mind, so how do I start the process of actually submitting all of this? We have a lot of measures. How do I start the process of submitting data? And this is what your clients are going to come to you for. They're going to provide you templates. They're going to provide you instructions, and they're going to say, hey, I have this file and I need this list of fields. Can you help me populate this? Pull it from your risk system, pull it from your billing software. And so we've put together documentation and files with our IT team to make sure that we give you clear examples of how to submit data. So the first category we're going to focus on is the PQRS measures, the same as the claims-based measures. Remember, we have 2 measure types, PQRS and non-PQRS. Essentially, we will give you an Excel file or a text file that can be uploaded or submitted to our physician portal, which is part of our QCDR as well as the NRDR. So essentially, we'll give you the templates. The templates are actually downloadable and available on our website, so that they know exactly what's required of them before they even start the decision of if they want to sign up for our registry or not. And like I mentioned, files, of course the files need to be uploaded to our PQRS physician portal with the correct NRDR user type, so we don't allow everyone to submit data to us. You can, but the facility administrator or the registry administrator should be the ones that are handling that. We have a nice user guide to help people with screenshots. We'll show you exactly everything that we need and kind of how to fix if your file is having problems being uploaded, if there's errors in certain records. We give you information on how to actually fix it. This is just a slide of some of the data elements that are required for the claims-based measures. So like I mentioned, there are a number that are listed here on this slide, but essentially we need information about the patient, we need information about the physician as well as kind of their physician group, and then most importantly we need the measure information. So what measure are you trying to use, what CPT code has your provider billed for, the denominator is essentially the population, etc. So we've covered the PQRS submission requirements. Let's look at our non-PQRS measure data submissions, because for this process, data submission is very much not just an Excel template that you upload. It does require you to, depending on which type of registry you're signed up for, like I said, we have up to 5. Depending on your registries, there's different ways that we ask you to submit the data for us. On today's presentation, we're going to cover each registry broken out by their data submission mechanism. So whether it's a manual entry that you need to do with a form, if there's an automated process so that your clients are not even having to think about it if they set it up correctly, and then of course data upload screening registries, there are processes where you can submit information by completing the manual form, but by any means, these are not the only ways that you can submit data for these particular registries. We'll see that on the next slide. There is one, so for automated submission, essentially we have a dose index registry. There's 6 measures. If your provider signed up for the dose index registry, there's 6 measures that they can use alone that could be used for PQRS reporting. And remember, we're only trying to get 9 measures. So like I said, by any means, you do not need to participate in all of the registries. But part of being signed up for the dose index registry, you have to, we collect data. It's an automated submission of DICOM data using our Triad software. So we have user guides and instructions on each of our registries that walks you through specifically how to install that Triad software, and essentially it's tied to it's linked to your CT scanners, and then it'll send data to us every day. There are additional things you need to do as far as mapping, but if you start with the software, you'll at least be on the right path to submitting data correctly. Our most common form of getting us any information right. We don't want anyone manually entering data if you do not have to. We know everyone here is extremely busy, and that's why they use you guys as vendors and billing companies to help them streamline this process. Our NMD, LCSR, grid, and some of our PQRS measures, like I mentioned, we will give you an Excel template or a flat file or text file. And if you follow the requirements of those file specifications, then you'll be able to submit data to us successfully. And then most importantly, the data that you submit, we will use that information to attribute the PQRS measures to your physician. So most of the data that you're going to be submitting to us is going to be at the facility level, but we have a process to attribute those particular measures to the correct doctors. And then, like I said, for PQRS supported measures, as well as ACRAD 24, we are collecting those via a web-based flat file or data upload. So our next and last mechanism of submitting data is through web-based services. You can see a list of which registries actually support web-based services. Right now, it's not all of them. You will notice that the National Mammography Database is not on this slide, but I think there is a process in the works where they're going to try to use web-based services. So essentially, like I said, anything on these slides are hyperlinks because there's too much to cover in a 1-hour webinar, but you will have the resources at your fingertips once we deliver the slides. I want to talk about a little bit more about the web-based services because it really is ACR's communication platform to help. It's between us and vendors like yourself, right? There has to be some type of agreement or integration process so that you can submit data to us, to our NRDR web bases, and most importantly that it then comes from our database to back out to the partner. So you'll see that you will be importing data and you'll be exporting it as well. One more point on this slide is that in order to start any kind of web-based services, we ask that you go through our ACR Connect authentication process. We have a documentation to help you start that process that'll give you login credentials so that you can test files and upload them to us, and make sure you have the capability before we even get close to the CMS submission deadline. Just want to give all you guys a little bit more information about the web-based services. Like I said, the grid, lung cancer screening, and the PQRS measures are supported by web-based services, and you will want to start the process through our ACR Connect, or that's our platform for our communication. And right now we have, everybody's probably familiar, but we have a box site where you could actually just log in and you can download the files as well as the process to start the authentication service or you submitting data to ACR. And just a reminder, as you all have questions, please do submit them through the chat feature or the question and answer box, and we'll try to collate those, and by the end of the presentation we'll leave enough time so that we can answer those questions. Like I mentioned, I kind of broke out slides to show you the difference between the manual submissions, the upload data, and the web services, but we do have a documentation, a 2-page document that pulls it all together, and it is available on our website. You'll see for the dose index registry, it's automated submission using DICOM data and then using our Triad software, so we do give you the information in more than one place. So now that we've covered a lot, we've covered the reporting requirements, we've covered the available measures that your clients will have at their fingertips, and then we also covered the different ways that we actually collect data. Data meaning specific to the measures that you're trying to use for PQRS reporting. Just wanted to summarize it or give you some engagement strategies on how you could be more active with the ACR. Some of you are already participating. You are already software vendors that are helping your clients submit their PQRS information. You may be signed up for one registry. Why not do more? So first, we asked everyone on the call to identify if your client is even signed up for NRDR registries and in what capacity, individual or group reporting are they planning to do, and then how many registries. We have a lot of people who have been doing claim submission, and registry reporting is something that's new for them, and we want to make it streamlined, easy as possible. We don't want one staff person manually entering data for all these different registries. That would be a little crazy. So we just ask that you, and most importantly, identify if they're doing individual reporting or group. Remember, we looked at the reporting requirements, and they're slightly different. It's simplified with group reporting. Next, if you want to get started, if this is your first time even hear about the NRDR registries or hearing about our measures that we have or even our capacity to submit this data to CMS, we ask that you contact our ACR registry staff at nrdr@acr.org to get started. We will put you with the right people, give you the correct documentation that you need to get started. And like I said, if you're already a vendor and you want to support in a different capacity, you can do that as well. Most importantly, setting up a testing account, and you can do this through the ACR Connect to make sure that you have the capability to submit data to us appropriately for PQRS. And then lastly, market your services via webs and conferences. I know I've met a lot of the clients on the phone at our ACR's annual meeting in the exhibit hall. It's a great conversation starter to say that I'm working on PQRS. How can you help our radiologists? So thank you all for taking the time to participate on today's call. I also wanted to make sure that I give you some of the benefits of using a QCDR, right? We already talked about them, but most importantly, data is not the only means, and reimbursement is not the only means of why our radiologists want to use our registry. Yes, a greater potential to meet the 9.3 reporting requirement, but most importantly, they can meet PQRS, volume modifier, and MIPS starting in 2017. They're doing it for maintenance of certification, Part 4, which is kind of like your PQ or your practice quality improvement projects. And then you can use the QI registry data to really show value to hospitals. So we have a lot of group practices. It's a hybrid of different ways you can sign up, and a lot of people are using their registry data because we're going to give you reports and we're going to give you real-time data that you can use to present to your hospital leadership to show the value of radiology. So as vendors, why not help your clients do that? That's a great selling point. And then I'll just jump to the last, because I want to make sure I have enough time for questions, is the feedback reports. Really, our participants, they receive quarterly benchmarking reports. These include national benchmarks and comparisons, help them to provide an objective assessment of performance. So not only are you just submitting data to us, but they're monitoring their performance. And the more that you as a vendor can assist them with collecting their data, abstracting it from their systems, and getting it to the ACR, they'll be able to use that information more readily. With using our QCDR, like I said, we provide feedback to participants at least quarterly. We provide physician-level reports with performance rates to show them how they're doing in comparison to others participating in the registries. And then also the physicians are empowered to review their measures and then kind of authorize whether or not they want to submit that data to CMS. Let's look at the reporting schedule. So now we're coming up. It's July. I can't believe it already. Q1 is done. Q2 reports will be issued in August, and that's for data collection period from April through June. If this is your first time starting, like I say, by any means it is not too late to help your clients with this process. We still have 2 more quarters that you can help them get data for. This is just an example of what our dose index registry report looks like, and essentially I'm not going to go through this slide because it's not my area of expertise, but you can see their rates against all sites that are participating in the DIR. You can see their means and if they're in the 25th percentile or not, and then how many exams they're submitting, if they're doing chest with contrast, etc. And then this is just another example of the feedback reports that we give them for the GRID registry, which is most of our turnaround time measures, and it's broken out by modality. And so the doctor can see how many measures they submitted to GRID, and they can see their performance and how the standard deviation in the means as well. I mentioned this earlier, but we have a awesome web resource that has all this information about what our data, what is the cost. Everything is available at this URL. And then this is, I always share this on all of my presentations because the common question I get is it too late to get started? It is not too late to get started. We're asking, we have a number of deadlines to help us meet our target of submitting data to CMS by March 31st, 2017, the last date on this slide. By any means, we are working with the sites, the hospitals, the administrators, the vendors to get data to us well before that March 31st deadline. We're asking that anyone who's interested in using any of our NRDR registries for PQRS participation get signed up with us by October 31st, so we have several more weeks. And then most importantly, at this time, we ask that the sites or the physicians or the vendors at least start submitting data to us by this time. That way it'll help us to validate the data, determine the errors, and make sure that it's set up properly. And just, I wanted to cover just some key takeaways because we covered a lot on today's 1-hour session, but registry reporting is here to stay. You know, it will help your client improve quality, and most importantly, improve quality because they're going to be submitting data to us, they're going to be monitoring their performance feedback reports, and then increasing their bottom line because they're going to be avoiding those negative payment adjustments for not participating in these quality programs. Your participation will help, your participation meaning the vendors, the billers, will help make your clients transition to the MIPS that much easier. Like I said, using a QCDR, it's going to help them meet 3 out of the 4 performance categories that are going to be required to determine if the provider is providing good quality, right, that's of high value. It's no longer going to be based on volume or number of exams. And then I would just caution to definitely coordinate with your clients to retrieve any appropriate templates and data submission requirements, because we do have information on the website, and the ACR registry staff, of course, is here to help you test your data submission, make sure you have the capabilities to do upload or web services, and then we encourage you to submit data early and often. We are trying to automate all of our data submission processes for our clients as well as our staff here. Right, no one is without unlimited resources, so we are here to assist you. If you can help your clients do this, it's a team approach, and we can learn from each other. Lastly, and we have about 15 minutes for questions, so I'm going to spend only about a minute on this slide. These are just some of the dates of some of our upcoming educational sessions. This is our third webinar that we're offering to our QCDR participants as well as others. We have our next two sessions will be focused on kind of what you need to know for PQRS reporting. It's going to be August 19th, so save the date and you have the link so that you can register. And most importantly, avoiding costly errors and kind of how to submit data accurately. If your client is not signed up for the correct registries, but they know, hey, you know, I should be a part of that registry, we want to make sure that we get them early on before our submission deadline, which is normally at the end of the year. Like I said, Q2, our feedback reports are going to be available in August. And then lastly, I have a call to action or an opportunity that everyone can take advantage of. September 16th and 17th, the ACR is hosting our annual conference on quality and safety in Boston, Massachusetts. And we're actually going to be reaching out because this will be the first year we have an exhibitor hall. And we're going to be reaching out to maybe some of you on the call because you participated with us in other capacities. But if you're interested, we can give you more information on how you could be an exhibitor. We're just starting that process, so it's not too late. If you're interested, feel free to send me an email. My email is on the next slide. But we want to get you in front, like I said, for marketing purposes. It's important to be in front of clients that you already work with, but to get new business as well. And I think our radiologists would appreciate seeing you guys there as well. And then lastly, these are some of our certified software partners, for our various registries. I double-checked everyone is accounted for. If you're not here, you would like to see your logo, let's start that process through ACR Connect and reach out to the ACR registry staff at nrdr@acr.org. And again, my name is Alicia Blakey. I'm just an administrator here for our quality management programs, and happy to answer any questions that you all have regarding the content that we covered today or anything else. We can go ahead and open up the phone line. Do we have any questions in the chat that's unanswered? So for today's webinar, I'm joined by almost all of our registry staff and our IT teams and our analysts. So feel free to submit questions. They have took the liberty of answering most that have come in already.
Kathy Hawkins has her hand raised and we just unmuted her. Kathy, if you want to ask your question.
Kathy, are you there?
I don't have a question. I was reading the other questions people had submitted. I'm sorry.
Okay, no problem. Thanks, Kathy. So I guess we're going to go ahead and end today's web conference. If you have any ideas or any questions come up following today's call, just feel free to send us an email to either me directly or to our registry team, and we will disperse as appropriate. Again, thank you to everyone for joining. Wait, we have one question here. Okay, two.
The first one is, are technical specifications available for the NRDR web service, and is this web service able to send the feedback report?
We do have instructions posted online. If you would reach out to us by email, we can send you the location for the specifications. With regard to the feedback reports, we do not have it at this point, but it's definitely in our plans to figure out an efficient mechanism to deliver this back to our participating facilities through our certified vendors.
And also there is, on one of the slides that Alicia showed, which you will receive a PDF of, as a link to a box account for information on web services.
And we had one other question. Can you give some more detail on where in the ACR website the information from today will be posted? That'll go on the QCDR webpage. We're also going to email all the attendees the slides and the link.
Correct. So right on the QCDR page, the top of the page, we list all of our webinar information, upcoming webinars, as well as presentations and recordings for any sessions that have already passed.
And we have a question from Maria Calamaro. Maria, I'm about to unmute you. Give me just a moment.
I think one of the issues with Maria is your pin's not entered, so I don't think you're connected. So if you're talking and we still can't hear you, could we ask you to please type the question in?
Yeah, I don't think the audio is going to work there. So.
Yeah, she has a great phone, so I think it's possible her phone's not. She didn't get her audio pin in.
And then, like I said, that we have 4 different data mechanisms of how we collect data, and it's dependent on which registry you're signed up for, so just keep that in mind.
Okay, Maria, it looks like you're on now and you're unmuted, so if you want to ask your question.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello? Oh, terrific. Thank you. My question is with regard to the registries, the non-PQRS. How is the value modifier calculated, and how does that factor in for the 5 different registries? Scoring perspective.
It's very similar, Maria, to the PQRS measures. So any measure that has been in the PQRS program where data has been submitted for more than 1 year will potentially be used in the value modifier calculations. CMS will use a benchmark from the previous year for any non-PQRS measure that was reported that has really enough data that has been submitted. So it has to have at least 20 cases submitted for it. So they will use that the same way as the PQRS measures.
Oh, so for instance, a dose index registry where there's 6 measures supported, if they're non-PQRS measures, I can find the benchmarks for those as well. Just like we're managing for the PQRS. Is that what you're saying? There are benchmarks that have been defined for those that they can track against. Okay.
Yes, there will be. They have not been. CMS has not posted those as of yet. But you can use as a sort of a guide. You can use the registry benchmark, and more specifically, the comparison in the QCDR feedback report that you receive.
Okay, and then just one clarifying question. If one of our radiology groups picks 9 measures or the required number of measures through the registries to submit, but none of those have benchmarks, will they not have any opportunity to get incentive through the value modifier? How will they be, if there's not a benchmark for measures they're submitting, how would they get calculated for the value modifier incentive?
You're right, that would end up more than likely as a neutral adjustment, but there should be benchmarks for most of the measures.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I think that's it. There's no further questions. We can go ahead and end the web conference, give you all back 5 minutes in your day. I just want to say a special thank you to the team here to assist with the questions, and most importantly for you all on the call taking the time to learn more about our registry processes and helping your clients.